Hey everyone, welcome to another Garage Hangs. I think this is probably like episode 4 maybe? We're back in the Modern Legends studio. I was out today taking care of some things. I did drive the E55, but I didn't have my phone hooked up and honestly didn't think about it. So what I want to talk to you on today's Garage Hangs, I redid some stuff in here. Looks a little better. But anyway, today's Garage Hangs, I think, is a touchy subject. BMW versus Mercedes. It's an interesting topic. Full disclosure, I have owned more BMWs than I have Mercedes. This car is the only Mercedes I've ever owned. I obviously adore it. I make a YouTube channel about it. I gush about it. I say crazy things on the internet about it. But I've kind of always been a Mercedes fan. I grew up, like I said in other videos, my dad was a big BMW guy, BMW Porsche guy. And so I grew up in a lot of BMWs. I'm old, so E20, E28s, E34s, E39s. I think my dad had an E39. Not an M5 or anything cool, but... and then I myself have had two 97 M3 sedans. So I can speak. I've owned this car for about 4 years. I've owned it as long as I've owned my BMWs as far as time, right? Mercedes are better cars. Now, every car maker has a section of years or a specific model that's a clunker, that's just no good. You think about like the GL class, when they started making those in Alabama, everybody knows their job. But if we talk about like direct comparisons, and I don't want to talk about brand new BMWs and Mercedes because I don't own either of those vehicles. And if you're clicking on an E55 channel, you're probably not either. So I'm going to talk about like cars of the same generation, right? So Mercedes, the W211 chassis, started in Europe in 2002, went through 2007. So I'll talk about that of the W211 era versus the E60 and E39 M cars, the M5s. And I'm going to take it from a different angle. Performance is performance. And this car, has basically the same acceleration numbers as an E60 M5. I found in the real world that they're not as fast as you would think they are. I've never had a problem with an E60 M5. And I'm talking... See ya. So I don't want to go on speed because I think I don't care about that per se, not the focus of this particular video. Where I want to go at it from is Mercedes are better built cars. End of discussion. I can't really hear about it. Spent a lot of time in BMWs. Lots of BMWs, all the way through the E90 generation cars. I'm going to compare this car as far as build quality to like an E39 M5. Or really, if it was an E320 to a 525i, just the two chassis. I had a lot of time around the E39 M5. Local friend has had one for a while. I've driven it. A lot of time in that car. It handles light years better than this car does. But like I say, we're not going at this from perspective. This car is built so much better than the E39. And I know the E39 guys are like flipping their keyboards over right now because they like to call the E39 the bank vault chassis. And the reason they say that is because E39s are pretty reliable cars. They're pretty well built cars for a BMW. But they are... And the W211 kind of lives in the era where Mercedes was kind of figuring it out. After the 210 chassis, Mercedes was doing a lot of things budgetary to save money, and that was highly known. And a lot of people had a lot of things to say about early 2000s of Mercedes. Personally, I felt like the W211 wasn't affected by that conversation per se. It has a sterling record. I mean, they are still used in a lot of countries as taxis. The Conforti brothers have that 437,000 mile E55. So I don't think the 211 has to prove anything to anybody about its reliability and build quality. But these cars, these Mercedes, of the similar generation, these, again, late model, these are better built cars. The way that the doors open and close, this car has a panel roof, which I didn't want, that I wanted. I didn't really want it. I had it. Every possible option for 2006. I wanted a fully optioned Distronic panel. That's a tangent. Sorry, I just like talking about it. But this is the source of my rattle. And all panel cars do it. I'm sure some of you guys have a panel on your 211 and feel me. But outside of that, so if you spotted me the panel roof rattle, nothing in this car rattles. Well, the Fabergé exhaust that I can't figure out rattles, but that's not the car's fault. Frankly, this car is much better built than an E39, and I think that shows you how much better it is, because the BMW guys really like to talk about E39s. And it's a beautiful car, don't get me wrong. E39 M5 is a gorgeous car. It is the best M car, period. And I don't like, I'm not into the new stuff. I am, but I ain't. You know what I mean? But an F80 probably is a nicer car, but erroneous. You know what I mean? To me, it's the greatest, and I think a lot of people would feel that an M5 since then it's not an E39. Like the G90's super fast. It's a giant car that weighs 4,500 pounds. Yes, it's like 3 seconds to 60 and all those things and yada, yada, yada. But at a certain point, numbers on a page or numbers in a straight line or even a nice 7-minute lap around the ring, physics can only be fought for so long. And one of the commenters, which thanks, thank you, like 6 guys, TR850, my German dude, thank you guys for your comments. I love the discussion, which is a lot of reason why I do these, is I like the discussion. Like right now you have to listen to me, but I typically would like the discussion. So yeah, I mean, where I was going with that. In one of the comments, it might have been on MB World, but somebody said that the 211 is what they call Goldilocks size. And I love when I read that, because I've heard that terminology before, and I don't think anything else perfectly illustrates the point. I don't want a car any bigger than this, honestly. Like, this was a mid-sized car in 2006. Today, I was at a stoplight next to a brand new 3 Series, and I'm probably exaggerating, but I felt like I was looking up at it, and it was like casting a shadow on me. And yeah, I'm a little bit lower than your average car, but still, like a 3 Series. This is a W211. This is a mid-sized car for 2006, and now it probably is the size of a compact sedan nowadays. So yeah, whoever said that, great comment, love it. I totally agree with you. And that's why the E39, I think, to me, is the best M car, because it's the perfect size. An E39 is a little bit, just a tick in every dimension smaller than this, but they're more or less the same size. But I maintain that even going on when Mercedes kind of had their rough patch, in the M156 era, the 212s and up kind of had a little bit of issues on launch. Some of the S classes, the 221s, had some issues. But if you go back and look at like E60 issues, and I don't know the body chassis anymore of the 7 Series past the E38, but that Chris Bangle just god awful 7 Series, those cars are junk. And a buddy of mine unfortunately has a 745i L, and it's a turd. It's always leaking coolant. It's just a Mercedes is a better built car. I would say a Mercedes is a more reliable car. And I'm going to give you E63 and you C63, you M156 bros a bone. I would rather have an E63, an M156 car, over an E60 M5 or an E90 M3. I would rather have to deal with some head bolt issues, maybe a cam faller issue, than my rod bearings just torching a motor. You know what I mean? And those guys consider rod bearings maintenance, and I'm sorry, I just don't consider rod bearing maintenance. And yes, I'm well educated on why the S85 and the S65 have this issue, yada, yada, yada. To me, it is a cop-out on BMW's part. Engineer these fantastic cars, a 5-liter V10 that revs to 8,000 RPM. Like, you're telling me you got all that out of there, right? Great engineering, fantastic stuff. And you couldn't spec the right rod bearings for the car? Like, come on, man. I've been around, I spent a lot of time with Fords, and it ain't that hard to spec a nice Cleveite or whatever you want to do bearing. You shouldn't be going through them. And there's a lot of different factors that contributed in that engine. And yes, people are to blame for it a little bit because, like every consumer, nobody listens to what the manufacturer says, and those cars need to be warmed up. I mean, every car needs to be warmed up, but for instance, if I get in this vehicle when it's ice cold and I drive it for 15, 20 minutes, the temp gauge is you know, the water temp is up halfway. Yes, I know the oil isn't warm yet, but I don't worry, I don't lose sleep at night if I lean on an on-ramp and get into a little bit of boost, because this is a stout engine. Can't do that on those motors. They have to be like, the oil's got to be up at 220 or whatever it is on those cars for them to do something. And I'm sorry, but that just, name the illustration. Your favorite, you know, athlete in whatever sport is always hurt, drives you nuts. That's what that is. You know, it's like just when you get him back on the field and he's doing great, he gets hurt again. Come on, like, you know what I mean? That's the story of that generation car. We don't have that problem in Mercedes land. Yes, the M156s have some issues. And some of those cars have never had a problem. I know, for as many as I know that are junk, I know 2 or 3 guys that have '09 C63s. They beat the balls off of them and they're fine. And they're just better built than the other ones were. You know, hand-built engine, that's going to happen from time to time. But you're going to see far less issues with you 63 boys than you are those M-car guys. And the M-car guys are a little different, and it doesn't bother them because those cars offer a unique driving experience. And that's kind of where a lot of talking and blah, 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 blah gets to the point. Buy a Mercedes if you want a well-built, comfortable cruiser that is going to hurt some feelings on a drag strip or an on-ramp or whatever you want to do. If you are a canyon carving guy and you live to go to the canyons, then you're going to wonder why you bought one of these, because it's just not going to be able to do it very well. And that's where an M3, I've had 2 of them, are incredible. But when I drive this car, I don't think about anything but enjoying the car and having fun. When I drove my M3s, I was glued to the temperature gauge because both of them had cooling issues. I put 2 water pumps in the one car, 2 radiators in the other, and they were Mishimoto aluminum radiators, so I didn't go back to the junk plastic stuff. Like, there's just something going on there. I'm not smart enough, but they just can't iron it out. Where I feel like, again, you know, the M113K cars, these babies are dialed in by this point. Like, none of us have issues, and if they do, there's, you know, they're far and few between, or they're small and naggy, and they're not consistent. You know, some guys in the forum have, you know, problems with cars not wanting to start, you know, and those problems get sorted out. But it's not like there's 7 threads. My car won't start. My car won't start. E55 won't start. Why will my new 50? You know what I mean? Like, the problems are far and few between. So yeah, I'm going to say Mercedes is better. If you want a dedicated track car, then maybe a BMW is a car for you. I would argue that even outside of BMW, there are some other options that I would turn to that are probably going to be more reliable and less headaches. But that being said, I would buy another E36 M3 in a heartbeat. It is my favorite BMW. It is a gorgeous car. I adored the 2 I had. And now watching them appreciate in price, I'm kind of kicking myself in the pants. But I'm not going to make the mistake with this one. But at the end of the day, we're not all Jay Leno. We can't have a garage full of cars. So this is where I stand. And honestly, I don't know what I would ever replace this car with, you know, if I didn't go back to a Mustang or something like that. This is to me, this is the German sports sedan of all time. Bold claim, whatever. I just think, say what you want about your M5s, the Audis, all those things. This is the original Hellcat. This is the Terminator Cobra. This is the car that started it for everybody. And this is the benchmark, right? And nobody can like anything anymore because it's trendy to be hating and have something to say. But when a nice E55 rolls up in someone's mirror, those cars have presence. I touched in it. These cars have a story. These cars have presence. These cars have the X factor to me. And certain BMWs have that, but you can't have it all. You know what I mean? And I feel like for my money, this is the closest it gets. So, in conclusion, BMW versus Mercedes, what's better? Prove me wrong. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, hope everybody's good. And we'll talk.